We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Jakari from Twisted Nightmare Gaming, and I'm back at you with another video. Trying to get this bright because you can see there's a bit of a glare going right across my big ass head, and I can't do much about it. This real quick. That's a little bit better. I can't do much else with that without turning off the light. So, anyways, we're gonna review another one of the older videos on the channel. This just so happens to be the first wrestler interview I ever did, which was with my boy Nate Fury. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, and just like last time, I will pause if need be. So let's go ahead and get started here.
Alright, so this is Jakari with Twisted Nightmare Gaming, interviewing an actual good friend of mine here. First guest of my wrestling YouTube part of the channel. This is my boy Ronald, aka Nate Fury. Say hi to everybody.
How you doing, guys? Pleasure to be here. I'm very happy to be your very first guest. Like that's I'm actually really honored you to have me on here for the first one. Very first one, mind you.
You were legitimately the first person that responded.
I am actually very happy about that, dude. I hope this thing blows up. You know, I hope this thing really gets you somewhere. I'm very happy to be the start of it.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to have somebody that I can that does something that I love watching and something that I've always wanted to do, but can't at this point. So.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. That's what we're all here for. One way or another, we're here for wrestling,
right.
For professional wrestling, for our love for wrestling. That's what brings all of us together. No matter what walks of life, you know, what we may look like, what we may be, wrestling brings everybody together in a similar passion.
That statement still rings true to this day. I unfortunately have not been to any wrestling shows since August of 2019. I don't want to go into what's preventing me from going at this point. Part of it is somewhat pandemic related, but now that, you know, I can go back, I just haven't. Part of it is due to time.
But yeah, dude, let's do this. I'm ready to be here.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started, some of your inspirations, man.
All right. Well, I feel like to really give a good idea of where I started, what I'm about. I'm gonna bring it way back to when I was like a small child. I want to say like 8, 7 years old. I would always flip through the channels like my parents would flip through, and sometimes they tune into wrestling. It wasn't something I necessarily followed, which is like another TV show to watch. Like the same way someone might stop to watch Family Feud or watch a certain cartoon. It's the same way I look at wrestling. I necessarily followed it. I just watched it for the sake of seeing what happened, and that was it. Like some of my most early memories was like seeing Mass Kane, early Ruthless Aggression era stuff. Like that stuff always stuck with my head. And my mother walked into the room. Hello, Ma. We're live on YouTube. Hi. Now you're fine. It's chill. Listen, it's an open environment where we're all chilling here. We're all relaxing. We're all just talking. It's a regular conversation, man.
It's just being recorded. That's the only difference.
This is live.
Funny story. This is actually the second time that we are shooting this video. That we were doing this actual interview. The first time we shot it, it was about 45-50 minutes long. And about 25 to 30 minutes in, my old camera phone, my old S8, the camera failed recording halfway through. So we kept rolling, and I didn't realize it until we were done that half of the video wasn't even recorded. So we started from the top and condensed everything that we talked about in that 45-50 minute video into what is about 25 minutes in this one.
An uncut, folks. We're live. But I know some of the earliest memories was, like I said, ruthless aggression stuff, Mass Kane, and all that. Like that's some of the most earliest memories of wrestling. But then when it really started to kick off for me was, I want to say, back in 2009. I want to say was it was an episode of SmackDown with Edge and John Cena on the cutting edge. It was the promo where Edge did this whole spiel about, oh, I hate you, like this whole big hate promo he had on John Cena, you know, and I was like enveloped in it. It's like it really, this is the time when it really caught my interest. And of course, you know, I'm sitting there with all my other little cousins sitting around me. They're all going, oh, yeah, Cena fans. Yeah, and then I'm the only one there, of course, cheering for Edge, the heel. So, I guess in the beginning, I've always had a heart for the bad guys. You know, Edge is like him and Kane were like some of the very first people that really, you know, got me into watching wrestling. So I've always had like a special place in my heart for those guys.
Right. I can understand that one all together. Oh, 100%. Because that's where I've always been. I was never really a big fan of the baby faces, so I had a few here and there, you know, like Rey Mysterio, of course.
You got your guys you like watching. It just sometimes it's, you know, it's their persona,
you have those guys you love to hate.
Exactly. They just do it so good to where you prefer them over the other guys.
Right.
So that's where it started, and really that's when just a TV show I would flip it every once in a while. Finally, it became more of a hobby, something I followed, something I was interested in. You know, I watched the videos, played the games. You know, I think one of my very first wrestling games was WCW NWO Revenge for Nintendo 64.
Yeah, dude, I remember that game very vividly and very painfully.
Very painful.
Because I was very bad at that game.
Really, dude, it's so easy. I don't know how you get bad at that.
Take consideration during that time frame, I was playing nothing but PlayStation, so flipping to the 64 controller.
Dude, of course, you got a whole other friggin' world now to get used to.
It was like
that learning curve for 12, 13-year-old me was a bitch. Mind you, I actually ended up having both the PlayStation and the 64 at that time. But I didn't play much of WCW NWO Revenge because I think I was actually playing, so we're talking like 96, 97, 98, somewhere in that way, before WrestleMania 2000, before No Mercy came out on the 64, which were two games that I played quite actively. And this actually predates the first SmackDown game. So ECW, Hardcore Revolution, Anarchy Rules. Actually, I think Anarchy Rules came out in like 99. If I'm wrong about that, y'all, somebody will probably say something about it in the comments. But again, I played more PlayStation than I did 64 until WrestleMania 2000 and even Backstage Assault and Mayhem, and I think Thunder really were the main ones that I played on 64 until No Mercy came out, and then all of those got shelved to the back for No Mercy because that was probably my favorite 64 game of all time. So
what the hell is this thing?
What is this contraption? But the C button's like 6 buttons on here. I don't know what to do.
And then, literally right after that, I had a 64, and the first game I had wasn't even a wrestling game. It was 1080. It was 1080.
Really?
Yeah. Huh. It's actually one of my favorite games of all time.
No kidding.
Yep.
I got the Nintendo 64.
Still to this day, if you put a 64 in my face and put 1080 snowboarding in my face, I will literally jump into the big air competition and run off a very long combo chain like I never stopped playing the game. And it's been 20 years since I played that game.
From my dad. He gave me this. It was like one of my very first game systems.
Okay.
He gave me that, like a whole stack of like Nintendo 64. There was that. There was also he had WrestleMania 2000 on there too.
Okay.
Didn't have No Mercy, but it was a good second place. He had that. Had a whole
Well, it was the
shitload of other ones
predecessor
on there.
to. It was the predecessor to.
That's
to No
what we
Mercy.
had. Yeah, exactly.
Because everything that you saw in No Mercy, you saw a lot of it. You saw being developed in
WrestleMania 2000, it's like it's starting block. You know, it would just
Right.
build.
It was just a lot more. It was a lot more difficult in WrestleMania 2000 to do anything.
Let's see, some games just need to take time to study and really get used to before you even get somewhat good at it. But yeah, it was that, and speaking of PlayStation, was Here Comes the Pain.
For the PS2. Yeah.
I also remember like the old SmackDown games too, like they had SmackDown 1 and 2.
Yep.
Like,
Know Your Role.
Yeah.
SmackDown 1.
I remember
SmackDown 1 and then 2 was Know Your Role.
Yes,
And then when they
yes.
flipped over to the
Which
PS2.
was Shut Your Mouth, right?
It was Shut Your Mouth.
I always get the two confused, like Shut Your Mouth and Know Your Role. It's like both rock had
Yeah.
phrases. I was like, oh, one of those came before the other. But
Yeah, Know Your Role came on the first PlayStation. Literally, they came out the same year. Both
Yeah.
came out in like 98, 99.
Right.
And
right.
then when they flipped to the PS2, then it was Shut Your Mouth, and Here Comes the Pain.
It just like gradually evolved.
Yeah.
To that. And I really enjoyed the original SmackDown versus Raw. Before they went to 07, 08, 09, 010, whatever. The first one I really, really liked. It was like that. It's like a bash and brawl kind of arcade
Right,
style. Like that's real wrestling games for me.
Okay.
Don't get me wrong. I don't. And I have no disrespect to 2K nowadays. Their attention to detail and realism is phenomenal. But I feel like a little bit too much of that is a detriment sometimes.
But the biggest problem that a lot of people have with the 2K series is the time they put into the detail and the graphics of the game. To an extent, they took away a lot of the fun factor.
Yeah.
And the appeal of it.
That's what I'm saying. Like I get realism, but it's got to be fun too. Like going back to all those SmackDown games, freaking jumping off of helicopters, climbing outside the Madison Square Garden building, jumping off onto the street, cars blowing up, like a little bit of that arcade action style. It's always fun.
Right.
I remember more recently. You remember All Stars, WB All Stars, that huge daft-looking dudes, the cartoonish. You hated that game, dude. It was so fun though. Do not tell me that game was not easy to pick up and play.
I never said it wasn't easy to pick up and play. I just didn't like the game.
I don't like it, man. Like, hey, listen, take each your own. My point is that I feel like the more arcade styles and fun stuff is what wrestling games should be. Have that little factors to them. But no. Before going off on that whole wrestling game tangent, that's what really started it for me.
So what got you? What made you decide
to really step forward was well, I used to think eventually that hobby turned into a passion.
Right.
It turned into almost an obsession I want to talk about, where all I was about was wrestling. I would talk wrestling. I would be wrestling. Every part of me was wrestling.
Right.
And eventually it came to a point where, I no longer, just wanted to be watching this. I wanted to be a part of this.
Right.
And I remember going up to my mom and I said, "Hey, listen, this is something, this is something really serious. I want to get be a part about." And I didn't know where to start. I didn't know if, I don't know what wrestling schools to go to. I don't know what you're supposed to do. Like, it was this huge, vast world, and I just didn't know where to get my start. But it was funny because way before when this was first starting to take place, really starting to build, I had a school counselor. And I want to say early high school, maybe late middle school, but somewhere in that time period, there was a counselor named Mr. Bonomo. Now, back then, I'm not afraid of it, I was more of an introverted kid. I was very to myself, I was just a kid growing up, and he was a guy, who I would go to. And he was aware of my, this whole wrestling thing I was getting into. He didn't exactly know the name because he couldn't remember half the time, but he said, "Oh, there's this place in Mineola, I always see like their truck and their sign outside of the building. Maybe we should take a look at that sometime." And so I remember that. So I remember texting like, wrestling schools in Mineola. And there you go. It was the Wild Woman Training Center, WXW. And it was funny because this whole time, this passion was building. This whole time, this thing I'm trying to, this whole thing is building up for me. Whole time I'm trying to figure out how to start. It's 5 minutes. It's like a 10-minute drive away from me. The whole time I'm trying to think, how do I get this world started? Where do I go? How do I do this? It's a 10-minute drive. The wrestling school is right there. So my mom gave a call to the training center, and the first person that picks up is Mama Lynn. She tells Lynn this whole story about me because we were worried because I was 15 at the time. You know, I was like a 15-year-old kid. You know, but I was a big 15-year-old kid. So you know, we said, okay, screw it, give it a shot. So my mom called Lynn, told him the whole story. You know, oh, he's this and this. He's loved wrestling. He's wanted to be a part of wrestling this whole time. And Mama Lynn said, okay, come on down to one of the shows and we'll take a look. So there's one night we went to the Mineola Recreational Center, and I walked in there, and it was at the Extreme War. For like my very first WXW show was an Extreme War, which I'll go back to later, and that comes full circle. But we go there, and like I'm like in awe because that's the
Funny thing is I believe my very first WXW show back in like 2012 was an Extreme War. So this is very fitting because I actually didn't remember this part of the story until now. But yeah, I believe my very first WXW show was Extreme War back in 2012.
So at that point, that's the closest I've ever been to a wrestling ring. You know, this wasn't like your Raws or your SmackDowns in this big arena. It's like it's a lot more close and personal. It was my first, you know, show of that caliber.
Right.
And that was like, you know, more older stuff, you know, like a whole different generation I was walking into. You had like your Nick Nero's, your Noah Keikoa's, your Prophecy, like that's the stuff that I really was first introduced to, you know? And you know, that's those are the people I first started watching. And I remember it'd be like during intermission, like I was literally like, again, this is the closest I've ever been to a ring. So I'm walking around, I'm literally leaning over the damn guardrail, like trying to touch the ring. Like this is like I've never seen one up this close before. Oops, moved the entire table. Like I said, folks, live and uncut.
Yep.
But no, so yeah, I'm in there. I'm in awe of what I'm seeing. So the show ends, and me and my mom, we meet up with Mama Lynn. So Mama Lynn takes a look at me and says, yeah, you know, you are a pretty big kid. I think we'll have me talk to Afa at the training center, you know, the next week. I've never met Pops at this point. You know, him in the shows, he's up to his neck in work. You know, he's doing his own thing. So I've never, you know, I've seen pictures, I've heard things, but I've never actually met him, you know, face to face. Fast forward to the next week, where we're actually going into the training center and meeting Pops. We're walking in, and keep in mind, this is a Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. So many years of experience, a hugely respected individual in the wrestling business. I put the fear of God into this man. Like this is like seriously one of the legends we're talking about now. Mm-hmm. You know, all this stuff. So many years of experience, so many wrestlers today mentioning his name. My dog's going nuts right now. So many wrestlers mentioning his name, and I walk through the door, no preparation from whatsoever. Boom, he's right there, right like 5 feet away from me. Okay, like that. I'm choking up, like holy crap! Here is this Hall of Famer, like right there. And I remember, like the only thing I was able to muster up was, you must be Pops. And he shakes my hand like, yes, I am Pops. He sits me down. I tell him everything. I basically just told you how this is something that's built, you know, it's building up. I seriously wanted to be a part of. My mom was there. I'm telling him all, you know, all he does is this, all he says is that, all he is about is wrestling. He really wants to be this. And I haven't forgot this either. One of the very first things he said to me was, I see a little bit of me in you. And that meant the world to me. You know, he hears a legendary Hall of Famer seeing, you know, that hit me, you know, it hit me hard hearing that. And he said, he gave me a shot. He get me started. But, you know, beforehand, he actually let me take a look at the training center. Like, he let me walk into the actual gym to take a look at the ring and all that. Now, this is when it got serious. This is when here I am, literally touching the ring, seeing this ring, but also seeing thousands of posters and pictures all over these walls. Literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of memorabilia. So much history.
Right.
Just looking at that wall.
And it was quite overwhelming and, and very intimidating.
Exactly.
Right?
You get all this stuff warming up in you. Like you see all this stuff from these legends, these autographs, all these posters. It's all this stuff is around. In addition to the fact that this is the first time I'm actually touching a wrestling ring.
Right.
I'm physically feeling the ring. Like it's hitting a 15-year-old kid pretty hard. Like
right.
It does things to you. It implants things in you that lives on for the rest of your life.
Right.
So I see this, I'm looking around, and my mom would tell you this too. Something we also haven't forgotten that really meant a lot to the both of us was that, in the training center, it was everybody. It was Nick Nero, there was The Beast, it was Noah Keikoa, it was all these guys there, and every single one of them came up to me and my mom, shook her hand, hi, how are you? Like, even just like a few seconds, just, introducing themselves, get to know me. Like, oh, hey, And that was really, really cool. No one really, had like an ego about it. It's like, oh, who's this random kid walking in? No, they all had a genuine, interest. They all came up and said hello.
Right.
So, that's. I feel like that was really the turning point. That was when I got the gears going. Where it was like, okay, this is something that I need to do, that I know that I want to do. This is where I'm going to start. This is where I'm going to do it. And really, like, the rest is history from there.
So, a little bit more, how did the Nick Fury character actually come up?
It came about when, I've always had this idea of what Nick Fury was, in my head, when I started watching wrestling. It really started to develop as I started training.
Okay.
And, I remember this whole persona was, the son of the warrior, whatever I'm going to call it, back when I actually, did what these fans care about. But, Nick Fury he's basically about channeling whatever emotions you have inside. Like, what energy you may have coming from whatever walks of life you may have been a part of. Because, Nick Fury... Oh, there goes my time clock. Again, folks, live and uncut. But, and of course the phone goes off too. Nick Fury's a man that is psycho with clocks. He hates clocks. At the sound of a clock, he goes nuts and he just absolutely destroys everything. I'm kidding. That's not what he really does. Oh yeah, and also he hates phones too.
Yeah, we're recording this on.
But no, Nick Fury's a man where, and I'm not trying to say this is anything horrible because it's really not. It's just Nick Fury was a man who, and there goes the phone again. I'm about to really let go of my Fury. But I don't know, Nick Fury was a man who didn't necessarily have the best upbringing. And then this is not saying no one did their job. I mean, it's not saying anyone neglected me. This is just, he was a guy who went through a lot of stuff at an early age.
Right.
Stuff that when you
makes you grow up a little bit quicker.
Yeah, precisely. I'm really glad you said that because that's exactly what it is. It's that, and it's those things that really mold you into the man you're going to become, I feel like.
Right.
And, I take a lot of what I felt from that period in my life to what I am about now. Because really, in essence, unleashing your fury was about bringing a whole unison together. Bringing your heart, your mind, your soul, and body all in one, big...
Kind of like a state of zen.
Yeah, exactly. You get this whole thing together to unleash your inner rage, fury per se,
right.
To unleash the fury, and just to use that as your weapon in there. No, that sounds corny, but...
It really does, folks. It really does. But
Right.
I can understand it and I can respect it.
But I mean, it may have been, but it was also real. You know, that's the thing. That's as important was, you know, whatever I do in there, it's real. It's coming from somewhere real in here. And, you know, that was the case until, so just recently where I just don't give a fuck no more.
And let's get into that part. So, what made you just...
Well, I mean, listen.
hit that fucking point.
You can only be pushed by a man so much until that eventually comes back to bite him in the ass. For a long time, I've had to deal with Sugar's garbage, all this filth he said about me, my mother.
Before we continue with this piece right here, we treaded a bit of a line with this because this was in storyline to what was actually going on at the time in WXW, and we didn't know if we were going to get in any type of trouble for it. I believe Ron actually went and talked to Pops and got it okay that we could talk about it, because this came out literally right after, like a couple of months after he turned. And it was really fun just reliving this moment, because it was him turning heel what made me want to do the interview with him, and he knows that, because him and my boy Landis, you'll see them being smug pricks. I was here for it. So,
Baby mama's baby, all this garbage eventually comes around full circle. And you know what? It wasn't like it was planned. It wasn't like I was, you know, calculating my moves. How am I going to do this? No. It was literally temptation. The perfect storm. It had everything set. All it was a choice. A choice for my destiny right in front of me. I could either go one way and go back to the way I was, or go another way and take my own destiny. Go my own way. Go somewhere different. Somewhere better. And that place...
He went away. In other words, what he's saying is he went away that made me like it.
I wouldn't go that far. But no, I went out of my way to join Team Extreme and actually do something good for my career. Actually get myself, you know, somewhere.
Hence the reason why I was actually wearing the Team Extreme shirt in this interview.
Different. Somewhere higher. You know, I took my fate into my own hands that night. I remember driving Sugar's head into that mat. It's the greatest feeling I have yet to feel in my entire career. So, I mean, that's where we are today now, folks. We're here with me, Team Extreme, a whole huge group of talented individuals, I might add. And that's where we stand today.
So, tell me about some of your experiences with some of the members. Since you joined them, and even if you want to go into it beforehand.
It's funny you say that because, you know, we all have our careers, we all have our lives, we all have our own choices. We all, you know, experience our own experiences. Jarrell, New Breed, Ati, and Devin, all those guys I've been around since I've grown up. Since I've started training, I've been training and growing up with all those guys. And, you know, let me run down the list there. Jarrell, you know, it's right in the name, the Outcast. The WXW universe, they tend not to bother with Jarrell. The point being is that Jarrell, he's a very serious man in there. He's a very serious guy, and he's a natural leader. New Breed, Vinny is a wrestling machine. He is a powerhouse in there. And with his partner, Sean Scott, on the other hand, he has the biggest mouth I have ever seen in anyone I've met. For better or for worse, he knows how to use his words to get inside someone's head to get them riled up. And they bring out the best or worst, depending how you look on it, in each other. Devin, Devin is another one who I've grown up and trained with since day one.
Mm-hmm.
I've tag teamed with him, I've faced him, and every single time, whether I'm tagging with him, facing him, watching him, he impresses me every single show. More and more shows, the more shows I watch, the more matches he has, the more impressed I am. His timing, his speed, everything, it's impeccable. And Ati is just a killing machine. He's a living tank. It goes without saying, these guys you definitely have to pay attention to in the coming years. Absolutely. And that's just my personal opinion. And well, you know what? Seeing that in retrospect, like I've gone through a lot. I mean, I'm only 20 years old, but I've already had all these memories, all this experience, and it's only going to get bigger from here, my friend.
It's funny because one of the first experiences he had was when you were a rep.
Yeah. That's a whole other story. I'm sure we'll get to some other time.
But
you know, from humble beginnings to wherever I am now, my friend. Now stuff gets serious. And that starts with the 22nd year anniversary show,
right.
September the 8th, against Sugar in an Iron Man match. So you know, it only gets bigger from here, folks.
Great.
Yes, sir. Jakari, man, I appreciate you for having me on here tonight, and I am also very honored to be your very first guest on the show.
Hey, like I said, I'm honored to have you as my first guest, man.
Absolutely.
And I greatly appreciate you inviting me into your home and
absolutely,
do this interview, man.
Absolutely. And hey, maybe I'll come back here some other time. Maybe we could some members of Team Extreme coming on here.
Probably after the anniversary show.
Absolutely, sir.
Because I already got a couple of people set up for the next couple of weeks.
All right. Well, hey, you know what?
And in WXW as well.
Definitely.
So look out for those coming up here soon.
Definitely tune in, folks. Jakari, man, it's a pleasure as always.
It's a pleasure meeting you, man. It's always a pleasure sitting down and talking to you.
You know what Team Extreme saying, right?
Of course.
All right, let's give it one more shot.
All right.
Team Extreme! Boom, boom, boom!
Hey, guys.
Like I said, no actual outro. Sorry about that. It literally cut straight to the other video again. It happens. You actually know that's actually the next video that I'm going to do in this series is the first zombie deck profile that I ever did. So, folks, that was it. I knew this was going to be a long video because the original video was like 25, and then when you add in the fact that I am pausing periodically and saying stuff, it was going to be a little over 30 minutes. It's 32, 33. It'll be about a 34-minute video. But I'll catch you guys on the next one. This has been your boy Jakari from Twisted Nightmare Gaming and LNN, the Lunar Nightmare Network. Catch you on the next one. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and hit that bell for all future notifications. Later.